Welcome to the world's best Go High Level or High Level tutorial, and I know that's a big claim, but as all of these comments on the screen from last year's video, which got 170,000 views, show, it actually might be. Now, jokes aside, I got a ton of amazing feedback on this video last year, and I promise to make this one even better. Before we get in, you're probably wondering, do I even need this software? And I'd love to answer that question for you. What High Level excels at is something called pipeline marketing, which is defined as the evolution of marketing. And as long as we're talking about evolution, we may as well use the example of Pokemon to help us know what's going on. So normal marketing on the very lowest level, this would be like Squirtle. This is just lead generation. We generate the leads, we deliver them to the client or to ourselves, and that's it. Maybe we call them manually. There's all sorts of manual things that happen afterwards, but there's nothing really helping us in terms of software to get those leads to move farther down the funnel or farther down the pipeline. Then on the next level, we have a war turtle. I hope I said that right. And this would be like, okay, we generate the leads and we have maybe one or two automatic texts, some automatic emails, some nurture sequences. We're not doing nothing, but we're not doing as much as we could. And that's when we get to the top dog, Blastoise. And this guy, as you can see, is an absolute tank. And this is what High Level is like. We can take a lead and put it through true pipeline marketing, which is a very sophisticated series of events that are tailored to that specific lead. This includes things like lead scoring, so increasing the number of points a lead has based on how many actions they've taken. So they've clicked and opened 12 emails, they have 12 points, but if they've only clicked and opened 5 emails, they have 5 points. And then we can make even more automations and triggers and sweet pipeline marketing juice, if you will, the lead that is showing so much more intention with more points. So we're not going to get all the way into everything High Level can do today because this is just a 1-hour overview, but I do want you to know the final evolution of High Level, if you will. A quick 10 seconds about me. My name is Keaton Walker, and I grew an agency and call center built on top of High Level to nearly $2 million in sales before I sold it to a strategic buyer. And now I help a lot of other agencies, SaaSpreneurs, other people. I have my hands in a ton of different agencies and I see a lot of things from a consulting perspective. Throughout that process, I've accidentally become a top High Level affiliate, and I have some awesome bonuses that go along with signing up with my link, which you can check out below. Now let's get into it. Before you sign up for your High Level account, you need to decide which plan is right for you. Now, there are only 3 High Level plans, 97, 297, and 497. And the awesome thing about High Level is they really don't gatekeep a lot of features on the lower plans. It's more around how many sub accounts you're allowed to have and how you resell sub accounts if that's what you're doing. So on the 97 plan, okay, sorry to interrupt, but if you run Facebook and or Google ads for your clients on High Level or are planning to do it, you need to use the sponsor of today's video, Uphex. Whether you're a beginner with just a couple of clients or an established agency with dozens, Uphex helps you in 2 very important ways. Number 1, it saves your agency insane amounts of time. And 2, it allows your clients to easily run their own Facebook and or Google ads through their High Level account without dealing with the complexities of the Facebook or Google ads managers. So picture this, as an agency, you're likely using 1 to 3 winning campaign strategies for all of your niche clients. With Uphex, instead of manually copy pasting that campaign every single time and spending hours in Business Manager, you can easily replicate your ads using Uphex's templates feature, and within 3 clicks, have your best performing campaign submitted and running for a new client. There's even a free template library with winning ads for dozens of niches. However, as any experienced media buyer knows, it's just a matter of time before a template starts to decline in performance, especially if you're working with local businesses. And that's where Uphex strikes again. When your campaign starts to decline, you can use their AI rewrite feature to rewrite and relaunch the ad in literal seconds, and the refresh feature to reset the targeting and put the ad back into learning mode, which is all it needs sometimes. What's even cooler though is that many agency owners are finding that local businesses want to save money by running their own ad campaigns via these templates. And because Uphex integrates seamlessly with High Level through a custom menu link, you can give your best templates to your clients and they can use the same 3-click campaign launch feature to get started. And then you can go back to sipping pina coladas on the beach instead of nursing your carpal tunnel that came from spending so much time in Ads Manager. Learn more by clicking the link below and sign up for Uphex today. So on the 97 plan, you can have 3 sub accounts and you can have 98% of the CRM features. There's really almost nothing that's gate kept in there, and I'll tell you what those 2 things are in just a second, but everything you see on the screen is included. And if you just need High Level for your own business or for a couple locations of that business, or you'll be fine with 3 sub accounts, I would totally go with the 97 plan until you need to upgrade. Next up is the 297 plan, and there are 3 main differences here. Number 1, you get unlimited sub accounts. Number 2, you can white label your own branded desktop app with your logo, domain, etc., which is a big reason a lot of people sign up for HighLevel. And then lastly, you can resell SMS and email costs. Very simply, every time you send a text or an email through HighLevel, and there's a few other things that I'll list on the screen now, HighLevel incurs a cost and therefore they have to pass that on to you. As much as we'd like to have unlimited sub accounts without any SMS and email costs, it just wouldn't be economically viable for anyone. And so what they do on the $297 plan is allow you to pass those on to your customers. Now you can't upsell them, you can't mark up the price. You're basically just break even there. But it's a great perk because all you have to pay is $297 and all of your clients' SMS and email costs can be passed off to them. And then lastly, we have the $497 Pro plan. And the two biggest differences here are that you can enable SaaS mode, which means that people can go directly to your website, like mine, for example, is streamline.io, and then they'll have a sub account created automatically underneath your SaaS. And then one of the beautiful things that a lot of people are enjoying is that you can mark up the SMS, email, AI, etc. costs. So it's not like the $297 plan where it's break even. You can actually make a little bit of money on every text and email, which can add up depending on how many customers you have. Beyond that, the $497 plan has a few other benefits, and I'm going to separate them between the agency benefits and the CRM benefits. On the CRM side, agent reporting is only available on the $497 plan, and there's a lot you can do here. If you have like a sales team calling multiple leads and needing to track all of that through a single sub account, totally worth it to have agent reporting. And then the other thing you can have is a customizable dashboard or multiple dashboards inside of the individual sub accounts. So the dashboard you see on your screen now, you can actually edit that, determine what goes there, make it simpler, make it more complex, whatever you want. Now on the agency side of things, we have a few awesome perks as well. You have a roll-up report scheduler, and that means all of your sub accounts can get an email every single week reporting on how many leads they generated, how many converted, etc. You can also make and deploy your own templates for funnels, emails, etc. So if you're servicing a specific niche and you don't want the generic high-level templates, you can make templates and deploy those to each sub account so that they have something easy to work with, which is very cool. And then lastly, you get access to the advanced API. I don't speak code, but this is the difference on the screen between the basic and the advanced API. It definitely seems like the advanced API is the most worth it, especially if you're building some kind of app with HighLevel. Now, on top of those 3 plans, there are 6 other things you can buy from HighLevel. The first one is an advanced account setup for $1,000, and you'll see what that includes on the screen now. Pretty cool and honestly pretty cost effective and comparable to what you would pay on the marketplace for a similar service, but they also have 5 one-hour consulting sessions. So definitely take advantage of that to get up and running quickly if you have the funds. Number 2 is the white label mobile app. And what this means is that instead of having the default gray label, which is not white label and not black label, which would be HighLevel, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not the HighLevel brand, but it's a generic brand that everybody uses. Instead of using that app, you get your own app with your own brand, etc. on it. And the cost for this is an extra $497 a month, or you can pay quarterly and save a little bit. Now, I would say most people don't actually end up opting for this. I know some really big players in the high-level space who have tried to use the white label mobile app and have just ended up going back to the default one, and they found their customers don't really care. So totally up to you if you'd like to do this, but definitely not necessary. Along those lines, you can get a white label Zap. So if you need to be able to use Zapier with your white label, you can have the HighLevel team create a Zap for you, and that's $50 a month. So your app would actually show up inside of Zapier, which is pretty cool. And then we have the Eliza agent platform. And what Eliza is it allows all your sub accounts leads to go into one spot. So if you're running a call center, it's going to make things so much faster, and you're going to be able to get to those leads a lot quicker without switching through all of the different sub accounts. Definitely worth it if you're running any sort of volume with multiple sub accounts. Next is priority support. You can pay an extra $300 a month to get faster 24/7 chat and ticket response times. I haven't heard this is super worth it, but for some people it may be. And then lastly, HIPAA compliance for an extra $297 a month. You can stay fully HIPAA compliant with your relationship with HighLevel. That doesn't mean that you don't have to study up on how to stay HIPAA compliant in your agency and with your employees, etc. But your relationship with HighLevel will be 100% HIPAA compliant if you buy that $297, sign the documents, and that's totally necessary depending on what industry you're in. All right, with all of that out of the way, let's get into the software and get learning. Now you have to understand HighLevel is divided between the agency view, which I'm in right now, and the sub account view, which if I click here, I could switch between any of these sub accounts and it would actually pull up the individual account with the CRM and all of the other features. First, let's dive into what it's like to be an agency on HighLevel. If you're just using the sub account, you can skip this section. First of all, we have this agency dashboard. It's not super accurate for me as I don't run everything through Stripe, but basically this will take whatever your monthly recurring revenue is in Stripe and show your growth rate, etc. Looks very cool. They just updated this. Next up, we have the SaaS configurator. This also had a massive recent makeover. It's so cool. By the way, if you don't see this or some of the other things on your menu, it's because you don't have the 497 plan. So you'll need to upgrade. Maybe you can upgrade during your trial just to see if those features are worth it to you. If you do so, you'll be able to play around with some of these features. Now, what the SaaS configurator does is it allows you to put together the SaaS plans that you want to deliver to people. And you can do up to 20 in here. I don't know why anyone would want to have 20 SaaS plans, but there are people that may just deploy slightly different ones with a slightly different feature set for each one, even if they don't list all 20 directly on their website. So let's go through what it looks like to set up a new plan here. I'm going to go into plan name and name this Keaton's Awesome Plan. And for the description, we'll say grow your business. Go ahead and hit next. Then we'll select a category. This is if you're offering in multiple currencies. Right now I'm just in USD, so I'll just select that and hit next. Now it's going to ask me about the pricing details. How much do I want it monthly, annual? And what's really cool here is I can limit the number of users or the number of contacts and bill based on that. Then if we go to this next one here, the features and snapshot, you can see it's by default added absolutely everything. But let's say on this plan, I want to take off, for example, invoices, blogs, and the affiliate manager because I don't need them. I could just deselect them here, which is pretty cool. And that's what I mean by creating up to 20 plans. You have a very high level of customizability here. Although these top 8 features here, you can see are locked. You're not able to change those no matter what you're offering. And as far as I know, this is something that the CEO of GoHighLevel, Sean, is very adamant about, that these are the key features that need to be sold, but it does bar you sort of from reselling something like, let's say, just communities, for example. Those communities would have to come with all of this other stuff, which is, in my opinion, great, but for you may not be what you want to do. Just something to keep in mind. Next up, trial and credit. So we can determine how long we want to offer a trial, up to 30 days or 0 days. And then we can add a credit when someone signs up, which is one time or recurring. So, hey, once you sign up, you get $10 in SMS credits for free, or we can add a monthly recurring credit of $10, for example, and roll over those credits to the following month or not. Beautiful. Now, lastly, we have this rebilling section, which I'll take myself off the screen for so you can see everything. Basically, we can decide how much we're marking up to 10x. So you could be making, 12 cents a minute that somebody is making or receiving calls, and 7 cents per text that is sent, if that's something you want to do in your model. Totally up to you, or you can go way down. And 1.05 times is the default because that allows you to cover Stripe fees, which are about 3%. So it marks it up by 5% so that you're not actually losing money on these. Now, along with the phone system and the credits there, you can decide how much you want to do for email verification, content AI, workflow AI, conversation AI, WhatsApp conversations, and reviews AI. These are all of the categories of reselling that are native to GoHighLevel. There are additional ones which I'll go over in a minute, but that is how the SaaS configurator works. And just like that, we've created our awesome plan that has all of these features. And if I want to go back in, edit some things, I go to pricing, I can go to features, and again, select or deselect here. I can add also a snapshot. I forgot to cover that while we were going. So basically this will load in a bunch of preset templates and everything else. I'll show you in a minute how those work, but I hope you're starting to see the power of the 497 plan on GoHighLevel. It's absolutely insane what you can build and automate with this plan. Now let's go to prospecting. With the new updates that GoHighLevel has rolled out to the prospecting feature, you can have 5 premium reports every month. Now I just generated this premium one for the purposes of this video. This is a like swimming hole type thing in North Carolina where I live that I went over the weekend, and I wanted to see about reaching out to them for marketing. So all I did was hit here, add a prospect. I typed them in on Google Maps. I selected it, and then I hit generate report, and now the report is generated. So you can see here, it's giving me the account details, it's giving me some notes and the business details here. And on the point of contact, it's actually pulled up all of the people that have this listed on their LinkedIn so I can reach out to them, which is pretty insane. Now let's look at the report, which is actually so cool. So if I come to the online health score, we've got number of listings found and listings not found. So you can see they've claimed their Go My Business, but there's a few other things they haven't done correctly. For SEO analysis, something to do with like a watering hole. Of course, they're doing very well because they're very unique in this area. Next up, we've got listings. You can see that their name, address, and phone number aren't matching on all of the listings. This helps with SEO. And on the review summary part, you can see how many reviews they have. We've analyzed 90 of them, 86 were positive, 4 were negative. Only gripe I have about this is I'm not able to customize what I want included in here. And some of these things written below just aren't what I would send to a customer. And so it would be nice to be able to customize them. Continuing along with the reputation stuff, these reports aren't perfect. You can see this Google My Business rating. It's saying that they have none. For some reason, it wasn't able to pull them this time. not sure why. Then it gives some examples of negative reviews, positive reviews, and where they came from. And then we show the online listings and that there's none on some of these important ones that will help with their SEO. And then recently they've added this website performance section, which is actually pretty amazing. It shows how fast their website loads on mobile and desktop, their core web vitals, and what they would need to include if they were doing SEO. So if you're selling SEO, this is pretty clutch, because not only can I just hit share here and copy this link and paste it and give it to somebody and say, hey, we did a quick audit. This is just an automatic audit and it's showing us some opportunity. Would love to connect on that. You can also download a report and show automatically what's on each one of these. But not only can I do all of that, I can actually just come in here and hit convert to sub account, and this client will have a sub account created, which is pretty cool. It'll save you a little bit of time if you end up converting one of these. So I think this prospecting feature has a little bit farther to go, but it's pretty awesome as it stands and definitely could get you some clients. Next up, we have the sub accounts menu here. Basically what this allows you to do is pull up all of your sub accounts in one spot. A lot of the ones that I have in here are dummy accounts, but you can see all of the numbers for that given account. This is my sub account. And if I hit report, I can see, okay, how many users, contacts, outreach, submissions, SMS, all in one spot, which is very cool. This is what I mentioned on the $497 plan about rolled up reporting. Those reports and actually automatically sending a weekly report with that info in it is not available on the other plans. It's just on the $497 plan. If I were to click into managing this client, it also pulls up all of the data, the tasks or notes I may have about this client. I can pull up their SaaS info and disable or enable certain features specifically for that account. After the fact of them signing up, we can toggle on user or contact limits here, make adjustments to the rebilling that I showed you earlier, determine whether we want to offer any of these additional reselling apps like WhatsApp, WordPress, Yext, and conversational AI. And we can also determine how we want to resell apps in the marketplace, which I'll show you in just a minute. And then lastly, the advanced settings of how many SMS can be sent per day, how many emails can be sent per day, and some of this other stuff regarding email verification. Also, one cool thing they've added here in the last year is the sub account transfers. You can't send or receive the sub account transfers here, but you fill out a form on a separate page. And let's say you signed up under somebody else's white label. You can then sign up for your own HighLevel account, request to transfer that location to your own agency. And that would show up here in terms of what's been received and sent for sub account transfers. Next up, we have snapshots, which I will come back to because that's going to be the most natural progression point to covering the CRM and the sub accounts. So next up, we have reselling, which is just its own section to set default stuff that I showed you for individual sub accounts we can customize. Following that is the marketplace. I already went over these upsells from HighLevel earlier in the video. Following that, we have the affiliate portal. This is where you can see your lifetime earnings, achievements, what you're getting on a monthly basis. And this is updated every 24 hours, which is cool. Also reports, payment details, etc. are here, but this main screen is the most useful. Next up, we have the template library. And this is very cool because there are so many templates for funnels, websites, emails, social planner, forms, and surveys. If you can dream it up, it's probably in here, but not only did HighLevel do that, as I mentioned earlier, if you're on the $497 plan, you can actually take your own funnels and add them to this, and they will be saved under my templates here. You can also go through here and decide to hide certain ones that won't be shown to any of the sub accounts that you don't want them to be shown to. Next up, we have partners. I'm not sure. I know HighLevel is trying to make this a thing. I'm not sure how much of a thing it actually is. And this is sort of like Upwork, where you can try to find a developer or someone else that you're looking to hire to take care of something in HighLevel, or you can post a job here, which is pretty cool. And that will go out to everybody that's in that directory. Next up, we have the university. This is where any courses you have directly with HighLevel will be stored. We've got SaaS education that just kind of trains you on how to set up SaaS mode here. And then we have the SaaS fast track, which is a virtual course that will populate inside of this university tab. And then we have the ideas board. This is actually really important because it shows you, first of all, in my opinion, the most important thing here is the change log. You can see what's changed recently and stay up to date with things. You can also scroll way back if you're super bored and see everything that's changed over time. And I find out like all sorts of new things I didn't even know rolled out from this, which helps me make these videos. But by scrolling back, you can kind of see the direction that things are heading and what's changing. In addition to that, the roadmap and feedback are really important because they show you what people are asking for. So right now, when I go to feedback, I can show trending posts or the top posts. So this is going to show the ones with the most upvotes, and HighLevel takes this into account when they're deciding what new features to to build, which is really cool. They listen to their customers so well. So right now you can see Google Lead Ads is at the top, UTM tracking and reporting, and you can see the status of this. So this one's planned now. This one's under review, meaning that they've built it, but they're doing quality assurance right now. And you can just scroll down and see everything that's planned for the future. And then on the roadmap here, you can see all of these different features and what's planned with them, but you can also see just in general what's planned, what's in progress, and what's recently completed, which is all amazing. Next up, we have the mobile app. This is where you can see a little bit more detail on the upsell of getting your own white labeled mobile app. And lastly, at least on this page, we will go to settings next, which has much more as you can see here, but we have the app marketplace here. So the marketplace is actually fairly new, but there's a lot of potential here. And basically, if there's something HighLevel doesn't do already that you want it to be able to do, somebody's probably built an integration or a third-party app on top of that. And those will mostly all be in here, and you can decide how you want to roll them out. So for example, this one, Numeric, this is a friend of mine owns this company and they help with payments so that you don't have to pay so many fees to Stripe. There's a link down below to check it out if you want to, but basically you can hit install here and then you can decide which sub accounts you want it to go to, or you can select all of them. So let's say I just roll it out to my individual sub account. I'll hit allow and install, and then it's going to ask me to log in here, and that sort of like pulls in that third-party app, right? You can also sort by top installed apps, newly added apps, top free apps, top paid apps, custom experience, conversations, and all of these other categories here, and then see which ones you already have installed as well. Now, if you don't want your sub accounts to be able to see this by default, meaning they can go into their app marketplace that's on their own account, you'll have to come in here to manage app permissions, hit settings, and get rid of this. Now, would I recommend that? Honestly, it looks a little janky right now inside of the sub accounts. I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes, but if you're scared of people finding out that you're using HighLevel, I wouldn't turn on marketplace just yet, or I would have it highly curated, because some of these mention HighLevel or they just look a little bit weird, and you're like, your customers, if they click on the app marketplace, they might be confused. But when it comes to these apps in the marketplace, if there's a trigger or something you want to automate or something you want to connect with, basically this is going to make Zapier obsolete at some point, because so much is going to plug into HighLevel, and the fact that this is still white labeled is pretty freaking cool. And as they roll it out and make it look and work better and better, I foresee a very bright future for the app marketplace. Hopefully next year I'm talking about how awesome it is. Very quickly, let's go to settings here and talk about the rest. So in my profile, pretty self-explanatory. We have company. This is where you can white label the software, set up your favicon, set up your white label domain, and determine whether or not you're going to have conversation AI, reviews AI. All of these other things can be turned off or on depending on what you want. In addition to this, they have this new section here. So these are very cool. The Net Promoter Survey, this is going to ask people how their experience was inside of HighLevel. Product guides, these are going to make sure when new users sign up, they're going to show guides to help them as they discover new features. And then daily updates going to send a report to your clients, prompting them to get back to leads faster. So that's pretty cool. And then lastly, we have the beta features. If you want everything to be toggled on automatically, which I definitely do. I just saw this feature for the first time. I'm turning that on. Next up, we have the team section. And this is just every single user that is inside of your software is going to be in here. And you can see which location they're plugged into here, their email and phone number here. And you can have pages and pages of those depending on how many people you have signed up for your software. Next up, we have the billing section here. You can see what you're incurring every month in terms of reselling with WordPress, Yext, etc. You can see the priority support and HIPAA compliance upsells, and you can come back here and see what you've paid in terms of your monthly invoice. Like here's my invoice with $497 plus tax, and then you can see a subscription update. I believe this is for WhatsApp, and then an automated recharge of $25 for SMS calls, emails, phone numbers, etc. And inside of the wallet here, this is actually really important. This shows you on a summary basis or a detailed transaction basis what in general you're incurring every month in terms of additional costs and what each sub account is incurring. So I can select a specific sub account. For me, like I could select this client. They spent $5 last month, about the same the previous month. And then if I go ahead and take that off, it just shows everybody all at once. And I can see that broken down by what specifically is happening. This is super, super needed because it can get confusing, and having this full breakdown here is important. Next up, we have the phone integration. This is really down on the sub account level, but you can see everything in one spot here, which is nice. This lead connector system makes it really seamless to sign up for phone numbers, get them approved by the new approval committee, which has been a whole thing. You can check out this video if you want to learn more about that, but this allows you to see everything in one spot. Same thing with email services. So this is my default subdomain email that anybody who signs up for my software will have at the end of their emails. I'll pop up an example here on the screen. So I can go into the individual locations and I can see which domain they're using. By default, they're going to be using this one, which is s.streamline.io. I can check a risk assessment for that particular subdomain, and then I can go to advanced settings, which is automatically enabling email verification for new sub accounts. On the premium triggers and actions, I can decide whether or not these are enabled in terms of the feature itself and the rebilling. Same with conversation AI for individual accounts, workflow AI, reviews AI, content AI, all for the individual accounts in one spot, which is nice. Next up, we have this affiliates tab. There's not much going on here. Next, we have this custom menu link one, which is pretty cool. I've got a couple examples here, but we'll go with the one that sponsored this video that I talked about earlier. This is Uphex. So what I can do is select an icon here, and then I just put the link title, I paste in the URL, and I can select which accounts it's showing up on, or if I want it on individual accounts here, and then I can select it as an iframe inside the platform, which is very cool. So I'll show you what this looks like in practice. So I was to switch to an individual sub account, you'll see that it defaults down here to the ads launcher, and I can click on that, and I'm logged in, and I'm not running any current campaigns here already, but you can see this looks like part of the software, which is pretty cool. I've integrated it with my Facebook. Then I just go in here and hit launch new campaign, select Facebook, and then I'm able to go ahead and actually build the campaign. Then we have some Stripe settings. We can see all the API keys of every single account here in one spot. We have compliance with HIPAA and GDPR. And then inside of Labs, these are the most recent features that HighLevel is rolling out. And we can decide whether or not we want them pushed out before they're pushed out. Like this one says in 29 days, I'm just going to turn it on now so then I can see it, which is great. And then lastly, we have audit logs. Honestly, this feature is absolutely insane to me. Basically, it shows you every single action that's been taken from any user. So if I come in here, this is someone on my team, and I can see he's updating actions inside of workflows. And if I scroll here, I can see this person logged in at this time. And if something goes wrong for some reason, we can go in and see all of these audit logs in one place, which is pretty insane. Okay, phew, that was a lot, but now we've covered the entire agency umbrella, and now it's time to cover the sub account / CRM umbrella. And the bridge between those two umbrellas, as I mentioned earlier, is snapshots. So let's go back to our main menu here and hit account snapshots. And as you can see here, we've got my snapshots, imported snapshots, shared snapshots, and snapshot templates. And if you're wondering what a snapshot is a collection of settings inside of an individual sub account. So these could be automations, texts, emails. It can also be things like email templates, funnels, website templates. All of those come with a single link and can be downloaded into a single sub account. And you can either use that as a link, or you can default, as we saw in the SaaS configurator, that a certain snapshot with all of these settings populates inside of a sub account when somebody signs up for your SaaS. And this is one of the most valuable and time-saving features inside of HighLevel. So really important that you master these and figure out how to duplicate them if you're working in any kind of niche, or even if you're not, having the base settings just ready to go is huge. Now, these templates here are created by HighLevel themselves, or people inside of the community that HighLevel has kind of worked with them to create this for these particular niches. And when you click them, they obviously will download all of those settings that I mentioned. However, it's really important to remember that this probably isn't going to work perfectly out of the box for you, and you're going to want to tweak a lot of things. And that's where this My Snapshots thing comes in handy, because you can come in here and the specific niche snapshot that you've built for your clients, you can come in here and create a new account using the snapshot, just hitting this button, create new account. And this is the crucial part. Once you've created, let's say 15, 20, 100 accounts with a certain snapshot, and you make one little change to what everybody is doing that you need pushed out to everyone, you can actually push that with this one, push update to linked account. So if every single account that you've created is created from a single snapshot, and you just need to update one thing because of some industry change or something like that, you just hit push update to linked accounts. It will allow you to select the accounts. This one only has 3, and then you hit proceed. You select everything that you want to go through. It checks for conflicts, and then you push that out. Now, I always like using a kind of classic local business as the example. So let's go ahead and use this landscaping one from HighLevel. I don't actually know what's in here yet, so I can just hit this setup guide button here. It'll show me everything that's inside of it. I can check for them. A lot of these aren't specific to the snapshot, it looks like, but once we download it, we'll easily be able to see everything that's inside of there, and we can just check that setup guide if there's something we don't understand. So I'll hit create sub account here, and this map will show up, which defaults to New York, at least for me. So in this case, let's go ahead and look up a landscaper in Long Island. Cool. So you can see it's put in everything about this business here, and I just have to name the account. So I'm going to name this Long Island Landcrafters. And for their email address, I don't have one, so I'll just put in my own. Select a time zone. That part's always manual, and then we're off to the races. So this is creating the sub account based on the information in this person's Google My Business profile, and it's loading in all of those settings that we talked about. All right, now boom, that has been created. And as the agency owner, you can see we're still on the agency view here. I can see whether or not I've got SaaS mode enabled. You can see usage usage limits for users or contacts, rebilling, reselling, marketplace apps, advanced settings, etc. that we talked about earlier. So what I'll go ahead and do is just hit this button, switch to sub account. I also could have clicked up here and just switched to them by looking in this drop down menu and searching for it. So now we're officially inside of the CRM/sub account umbrella, thanks to that very easy to deploy snapshot. So now that we're in here, I'm not just going to run down every single menu item like we did earlier. On the agency view, it's a little bit easier to just do that. When it comes to sub accounts, there's so many features in here that I have to go sort of mentally step by step what you should understand first. So I'm going to go out of order, it seems like, but I promise you I'm going in order of what's most important to understand for a shorter tutorial like this where you need to get up to speed fast. So the very first thing we're going to want to check out is just see that the stuff from our snapshot has loaded. So the first thing I'll do is come to automation here, and you can see we have a folder of marketing workflows. These are the workflows that are in here that I'll come look at. Then we'll go to sites, and I've got the landscaping offer and a landscaping website here, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the funnel for the landscaping offer. Pretty good looking funnel here with an exit intent pop-up, looks like. We can fill all of this information in, and you can see it says get your, and then this is blank here. That's because of a custom value, which I'll come back and explain a little bit later in the video. It's not important to understand right now. Perfect. So we've checked out automation, sites. Let's just look at the marketing emails real quick. We go to marketing emails and then templates, and we've got a few templates in here as well. Perfect. This gives us a big leg up to get started, so we can just edit things instead of having to start them completely from scratch. Now, as I mentioned, let's talk about order of operations. What do we need to understand first? And I promise you that that very first thing is lead capture. We can't do anything with non-existent leads. So where are the leads actually going to come from? They're going to come from 4 primary places. We've got forms, messages, calls, and then walk-ins or manual entry. And I'll show you where to find each one of these. So for forms, we'll come here to sites, and inside of our funnel that we saw here, obviously we had a form, but this form actually isn't built inside of the funnel builder. It has its own builder here, which is in forms. And that's so that we can just build a single form and then put it on multiple funnels, multiple websites, so that anytime we make an update to the one form, it's updated across all of those. So you click into the form builder and you'll see we can edit this, add specific things. There's lots of different types of things we can add into the form. That's our first type of lead capture. Now, that's not the only type of form that can easily integrate into HighLevel though. If we go into settings and then integrations, we can actually integrate forms from Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok directly, so that the information that is submitted in their lead forms, which examples you'll see on the screen right now, they automatically update inside of HighLevel. So if you're running Facebook lead forms or TikTok lead forms or LinkedIn lead forms, you just go integrate those, and I'll show you on an account that's already integrated. You see I'm logged in here, and I just go to Facebook form fields mapping, and all of the lead forms for this particular account are in here. And then to map the fields, I just hit this button, map fields, and then most of the time it's plugged in. Either the full name and the email are already in there, and I just hit save, and boom, we're good to go. That means I can start firing automations from that Facebook lead form. Next up on our list of where we can capture leads is in the chat widget, and to go there, we'll go to sites and then up here and hit chat widget. Now these chat widgets could be for SMS or email chat. They could be a real live chat, or they can be a WhatsApp chat. We have to set up WhatsApp in order for that to work, but basically this chat lives in the corner of your website. And again, I'll show you an account where it's already set up. It looks like this, but I can come in here and change the style, the color, where it's positioned on the website, the dimension of it, what it looks like on the chat window like this, how the messaging looks, the acknowledgement, and the language. There's a huge update that just came to this, and you can integrate this on literally any website you want. So easy, low barrier entry to way to start capturing leads. Now you might think we're done with forms, but there's actually 3 other types of forms that we can still capture leads with in HighLevel. And the next one is calendars. So if we go to calendars, so I've actually got loads of calendars already in here, and it looks like most of these are in a draft except this one here, which is schedule appointment. So I'll just go ahead and share that, copy the link and paste it, and boom, you can see what this calendar looks like. I can select a date, I can select a time, first name, last name, email, I submit my info, and then I schedule a meeting. So this is a form here. Obviously it's going to capture info. I can add more questions to this via the form builder actually, and other questions that I add inside of the calendar. But again, this is a great way to capture leads. The next way to capture leads is a little bit counterintuitive, but that is through payments. Just because somebody's not a lead yet doesn't mean they can't pay you. And when they pay you, they become a lead and a customer at the same time. If we head over here to the payments tab, I can add someone kind of manually as I'm sending them an invoice or a document or a contract. But what I wanted to show you is a payment link here. So I'll just go ahead and create a link. I can select a product. I don't have Stripe connected here, but let's say I did. Then I would just put in first name, last name, email, like I said, or I could just copy and send that link once I fill out the information. And then when they get the link, they fill out their information via that form. Now, the last type of form I'm going to show you here is an order form. Now, as we saw just a few minutes ago, this funnel has a form that they have to fill out to go to the next page. But let's say for instead of a free offer, here on this page, we were doing some sort of paid design or something for our landscaping clients. I would come in here to this funnel page here and I click here, and this button, as we can see, opens the pop-up. And so I'm just going to come up here. Don't worry if you're lost right now, but I'm going to hit pop-up and I'm just going to hit plus and find order form. So here I've got a one-step order or a two-step order form, and we can go over both. So in the one-step order, I can see the price as I fill in my information, but on the two-step order form, put below this, I fill out my shipping and other information. Of course, this is all customizable. We can take off any of this information that we don't want, but once I go to step 2 here, that's the only time I can see the price. So if I haven't dropped the price before, it's a motivator for people to fill out their info, then go to the next page and check out. And if they don't check out, then we can trigger abandoned checkout stuff and try to get them back in, offer them a discount, whatever you want there. So pretty cool on the form side, right? And I know I said that was the last one, but there's actually one more I forgot to mention, which is memberships. And inside of memberships, we have courses and we have communities. Now I'm going to go to an account that has this set up and show you that if I go to offers, for example, and I hit copy on this link and paste it, see there's a tiny little form where they can fill out. Obviously, all of this is customizable. This is bare bones. You can add payment, you can add other questions in here, but this is what the bare bones looks like. On the communities side of things, I have 2 groups here, one of which is my affiliate community. If you join using my link below, you'll get access to, wink, wink. If I go log into this right now, it'll pull up and everyone's in there, but that brief screen that you saw, I'll pop it back up on the screen now. You have to log in from there, and there's also a sign up page that you can use to add people to communities. It looks just like this. So obviously, again, customizable, but if they're new, they can hit sign up and it just switches. And there are 2 more examples of how you can use forms inside of HighLevel to capture leads. Now, all of those ways I just talked about of lead capture are very straightforward. Like, these are real leads. These are people saying, hey, here's my name, phone, email, reach out to me.
Keaton from the future here. It should be mentioned that you can also add leads from virtually any other platform to HighLevel via custom webhook, which lives in the workflow builder that I'll show you in a few minutes, or build your own custom integration to get leads from any other platform over to HighLevel. And typically it's not that complicated.
These next ones I'm going to show you are a little bit less like that, where we get a name, phone, and email every single time, but they still count as leads as they're the first time someone's reaching out, and we can still trigger automations based off of them. So they're important to know and recognize. The first one is social media DM. So remember how we went to settings and then integrations here, and we saw we could connect Facebook. Well, if you've got a connected Facebook and Instagram account, you can see that I have Messenger and Instagram selected here. So if I hit Messenger, I can see that I'm receiving Facebook Messenger messages here. And if I hit Instagram, same thing. Then every time somebody DMs you on one of these platforms, it's going to show up inside of this conversations dashboard here. So you can see I have basically most of these are Instagram reach outs, the ones that I have currently in my inbox. When I get a DM to my business profile on Facebook, they will show up here and I can trigger automations based off of that, which is huge. Facebook and Instagram DMs are the only ones supported right now. I'm sure more DM platforms will come in, and there's likely third-party tools that can help you bring in like LinkedIn or TikTok DMs, or there will be in the future, but for now, that's it for DMs. However, there are other messages we can receive that count as leads, inbound messages from people finding us and reaching out. The next one we should talk about is a really big one that released in the last year, which is WhatsApp. So if I come here to WhatsApp, you'll see I've got this connected, and if somebody messages this number, I can trigger automations based off of that, and then I can also manually message them back and forth in the conversations dashboard. Along with that is phone numbers. Now, there's a lot of annoying regulatory red tape that's happened in the last year around this, but texting is still a really big deal, and it's just allowing the more reputable people to be trusted and actually get their messages delivered. So at the end of the day, it's a positive thing. But basically all you have to do here is you hit add phone number, you type in the area code or whatever that is for your country, and then you can buy that. And it looks like the current price for this, depending on what kind you buy, whether it's a local one or a toll-free number, is between $1 and $2.50 a month. Now, once you've purchased that number, you need to go to the Trust Center, and I have another video, which I'll pop up on the screen now, that you can watch on how to get it all verified and make sure that you can send the proper amount of text, etc., that you're wanting to do. I only have the need for one number in this account, but what's cool about this is it not only receives texts and sends texts, it can receive phone calls and make phone calls, and those can forward to your mobile device. So if you're out doing something and someone calls your HighLevel number, it will ring on your phone. You can pick it up, have the conversation with the person, and that recorded phone call will be again inside of that conversations dashboard inside of HighLevel. Now, while we're on the topic of phone numbers and phone calls, there's a couple other places and special features inside of HighLevel that make this especially powerful. Let's say you have a client that has a bunch of different billboards in a local community, or they they have different websites that are all generating leads under different names. I worked with a dental client who had like 5 websites all generating leads for implant cases in the same area, but he liked having 5 websites because you could market them in different ways, etc. So one option would be to buy a bunch of different phone numbers, and then you can track which phone number each one of those leads came from and figure out which website's doing the best, etc. Or you could do something called a number pool. And what a number pool is kind of out of the scope of this video, but I just want to give you a taster here, is you can create multiple numbers that correlate calls to website visitors, pay-per-click keywords, etc. So basically what you can do with these, depending on which one of these options you select, is based on which website people visit, what keyword they typed into Google, what they've done on the website. There's tons of customization. I'll pop up examples on the screen now of what you can do, but all of this can be tracked within HighLevel. You can buy multiple numbers and they can all forward to the one number, which gives you almost infinite tracking capability from the number side of things, which is amazing. Now, the other one that's really cool here is Google My Business phone tracking. And for this, I'll go ahead and go to one of my local business clients here and go to their integrations. Now you can see here inside of integrations, I've connected their Google My Business profile previously here, but you can see this phone thing here says disabled. Basically what I could do is every single time someone calls from their Google Business profile, it will populate inside of HighLevel. But what's insane and takes this to the next level is that the phone number is actually masked. So it's not your special HighLevel number that's getting shown on their Google My Business profile, which is bad for SEO. It's their normal phone number showing up, but it's forwarding to and being recorded on the HighLevel sub account, which is very cool. I promise you, we're rounding the end of ways that we can get leads inside of HighLevel, but it's so worth it to understand all of these, because if you do, then you can actually serve your clients at the highest level. So the last 3 I want to talk about is number 1, email. Inside of the conversations dashboard, you're going to get emails as people respond to you, and you need to set this up correctly, but you can see this is what it looks like when somebody responds to an email. But you can also come inside of here, and if you want to, you can turn on what's called two-way sync for a specific email. So if I select Gmail here and I log in with my Gmail account, I don't actually want to do this because I don't prefer to set it up this way, but every single incoming and outgoing email between the CRM and your personal email account will be tracked inside of HighLevel and recorded in there, so you don't have to switch between the 2 accounts, which depending on how you have your email set up could be really useful for you. On the other end of the spectrum, if you just want someone who's responded to maybe an email blast or an email that you've sent inside of your HighLevel sub account to show up inside of your email server, whatever that is, then you can just come here to email services, reply and forward settings, and set a forwarding address. And that way the conversations are recorded in both places if that's something that you'd like. Now, lastly are 2 manual ways to upload contacts. The first one is just coming up here to this lightning bolt, and we can just hit add a contact, and boom, they type in their information and then they hit save, and then they can add any sort of tags or whatever else they need. I don't typically like doing this because I'd much rather create a form that will then trigger a set of automations without me having to add anything manually, but sometimes there's a case for this. And the other way that a lot of people add things manually is just coming here to contacts and of course hitting upload or import contacts. We can upload a file, much like other services you've seen, for example, CSV, hit next, and then it will ask us to map the fields. This is actually payment data. It's not actually contacts, but here it would have like name, phone, email, and then on the details page, we'd actually upload all of those, and then we can tag them with certain things, say this is part of a bulk import, etc. And then also from this page, we can trigger mass things like adding them to an automation, sending everyone an SMS, sending everyone an email, or specific segments, etc. All right, so I'm going to list again on the screen all of the ways that you can actually get people into the HighLevel software. Pretty amazing. Now let's talk about they're in. Let's actually start building that Blastoise that we talked about at the beginning of this video and make this thing as useful as possible. So the very first thing we have to understand is that every single lead that we generate, if we don't want them to just get lost in a long list of endless contacts, we need to put them inside of what's called an opportunities dashboard or a pipeline. And you can see they've already got this pipeline set up for us. It looks pretty good. New lead, hot lead, new booking, visit attended, sale, and left a review. These are all of the options we have. And the way that these are set up is inside of pipelines here. If I hit the pencil icon, you can see I've got these. And if I wanted to change, for example, left a review to no sale, because I want to be able to see those people and maybe follow up with them in the future, I just do that. So what these are referring to is this dashboard here. We have funnel and then stage distribution. And sometimes you don't want certain parts of this pipeline to be showing up in either one of these. For example, we've got new lead, hot lead, new booking, visit attended, and sale. For me, I wouldn't really want hot lead in my funnel, and I wouldn't want no sale in it either. I just want to see how many leads did I get, how many bookings, how many actually attended, and then how many got sold. However, on the stages distribution here, I do want to see all of those. So that's how I'll leave it. Now, the reason we do this before we do any automations is because during the automations, we're going to be moving these contacts between each one of these parts in the pipeline. And if you're running a client-based business like this, where you're moving people from lead to sales appointment to actual sale, there's literally no point in using the software, in my opinion, without having an accurate pipeline setup. And this is one of the most important things that you can help your clients with, because if they keep this updated, then their data in the dashboard is going to be correct, and they're going to easily at a glance be able to see, hey, how is my business doing? Where am I falling down? What part of the pipeline needs a little bit of extra love, and how can we build automations for that, which is our next step. So continuing with our example of the landscaping business, as we know, people are coming through this website. Let's say we're running ads to it. They're going to come here inside of this funnel, submit their full name, email, and phone, select which services they want, and hit the claim button. So once that claim button is hit is when our automations and our lead nurturing officially start. Now, there's going to be a lot of helpful stuff probably built in here already, but I think it's helpful to show you how this starts from scratch. So we're going to go out of this folder, and I'm going to show you what I would do if I was building this from scratch. So we'll go ahead to this workflow, and we will call it post opt in workflow. Okay, so the important thing you have to understand about the workflow builder is that everything is separated between two types of things: triggers on the one hand and actions on the other hand. And what the triggers do is trigger a set of actions, which then trigger more actions, and it's like a waterfall of automation. However, without the trigger, again, nobody enters this workflow unless we insert them manually. So there's tons of triggers in here. I actually did a video where I went over all of them. You can check it out. But the key one that we want here is a form being submitted. You can see all of those forms we talked about earlier here, but for us, it's just a normal form. And we're going to go to add filters here, and then we're going to select form is, and we only have the one form, which is marketing form, claim offer. So we'll hit save trigger here. Ooh. So now the world is our oyster. We know what's going to trigger our workflow, and now we're just deciding what we want to do. Now, my biggest piece of advice here with over 5 years of marketing automation experience that I can share is to start small. Just do the bare minimum so that you actually understand what's happening. The issue with a lot of these snapshots at the very beginning is if you don't understand, you can't just look at it and be like, oh yeah, I get what's going on here. There's going to be this underlying anxiety of, I don't actually know what's going to go out because I didn't build this myself. So when you don't have the ability to build some massive fancy workflow, what you should do is start with something that, again, you can completely understand just by yourself. So let's go back into here. And our very first thing we're going to want to do is add this person to that pipeline that we created. So I'm going to come in here, and it's not actually pipeline you type in, it's opportunity, because it's the opportunities dashboard. So I hit create or update opportunity, and then I'm going to select the pipeline. We only have one. And then we're going to select the pipeline stage, which is new lead. Then we just come in here to the opportunity name, and we hit this tag. We're going to go to contact full name. That's going to name the opportunity, whatever that person submitted in here on the full name. Then on the opportunity source, sometimes this will automatically fill for you, like if it's a Facebook lead. But for us, let's go ahead and do claim offer landing page. And on the lead value, you could add something like, okay, maybe this is worth $50,000, but I actually have data suggesting that only 1 or 2 out of 10 leads is actually going to turn into a project. So realistically, not every single one of those is worth $50,000. So I typically leave the lead value blank. And then if it's a sales call, then I say, okay, that's potentially worth $50,000. On the status side, we're going to select open. So won, lost, abandoned, and opened are our only options here. And open means we don't know if it's won, lost, or abandoned yet. So we'll leave that there. And then we can select whether or not we want this to be able to move to any previous stage in the pipeline or allow duplicate opportunities. Now, the previous stage in the pipeline thing doesn't really make sense unless you have a pipeline set up that way for some reason, but someone's not going to go from a sales call back to a new lead. They're going to progress somewhere else inside of that pipeline. So I typically don't turn that on. And on the duplicate opportunity side, I don't turn that on because it doesn't make sense to me either. So there we go. We've created our first action based off of a trigger. Very cool. Now at this point, I feel like this is when most local business owners just stop. They're like, cool, I've got a way to track it. The form's coming in and I'll just call these leads. I'll text these leads. I promise I will. And as anybody who's worked with clients like this knows, they're not actually as on top of these leads as they probably should be. And so what's really cool and what we can do instead is text them immediately. So I'll just go here to SMS and we'll put in a simple text here, hey, and then I'll hit this custom values name, contact first name. And I'm just going to say something simple like, I saw you requested a free quote for landscaping services. Can you confirm what you're looking to get done? Something simple like that. And then for the sign off, I come here to custom values. Then I'll say the account name here at the top. So in our case, this is going to say Long Island Landscaping or whatever that company name was. And I'll hit save action. Boom. So now every time a form is submitted, not only do we add them to the pipeline, but they get an automatic text. Mind blown. Now let's take it one step further, and then we're going to be done with this version because again, we want to understand every single part of this before we build something super complex. And what I'm going to do is actually add in a call here, which which is very cool. So what this is going to do is actually call the business owner, and I'll just rename it that so we know that for sure. The call whisper is going to be the message that plays when this person picks up the phone, and then it'll say press any key to connect after this whisper. So what I'll say here is new lead for offer booking page. We'll keep the call timeout at 60 seconds. We can turn on disable voicemail detect. I'd recommend leaving this off because we want it to detect when it's a voicemail. And then we're going to say connect call after key press. So when I say connect, this means it's going to actually call the lead when they push the button or after the whisper message plays 3 times. So this is a really good way to basically force your clients to pick up the phone and call the leads immediately. There's a lot of studies that show the faster you call the leads, the more likely you are to get in contact with them. So this is a really, really cool way to help them actually get the ROI they're looking for from the campaigns that you're running for them. And then what we're going to do is actually publish this. And I'm going to show you how this works in real time. Now, there are some things here that aren't set up completely correctly, and maybe you recognize that, maybe you don't. You're thinking about the scenarios where this could go wrong. I'll show you them in a minute, but I want to demonstrate just how cool this is and how fast we can set up something that's pretty functional. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to fill my information out. And let's say I need a water heater replacement. I'm going to confirm and hit claim. And now that's been submitted. We're going to come here to the conversations dashboard and we're going to see what happens. So you can see this SMS tried to send. We haven't purchased a phone number on here, so that's why it has an error. And then we tried to do an outbound call as well. So that worked perfectly. That's amazing. And if we come back to opportunities here, boom, there I am. I came from the claim offer landing page and that is my opportunity card. And I can click on here, see all of my details. I can book or update an appointment. I can assign tasks. I can do notes so that if there's other people on my team or I just am bad at remembering what's going on with this client, I can save all of that info there. And by the way, a lot of this can be managed from your mobile device. There is the Lead Connector GoHighLevel app coming out with a video on how exactly to use that soon. But yeah, pretty cool how fast that worked, right? Now let's quickly go back to building a version 2 of this automation and also the website that isn't perfectly up to scratch yet. So as we can see on the website, it says claim your, and there's nothing there. And I mentioned custom values. So it's time to go in and update that custom value. And this is one of the huge parts of snapshots and why they're so amazing, because depending on the client, you can update things across the entire sub account just by typing it in once. So I come here to settings and then I'm going to hit custom values. And you can see we have 3 here. We've got the booking thank you page URL. We've got the website booking page URL. Now this one, the promotion name. So we're just going to come in here and let's say free quote and just hit update. So now this is going to say that the value of our custom value promotion name is free quote. And if we come back here and hit refresh, boom, claim your free quote. It's updated everywhere. And again, I only typed it once, and that's why custom values are absolutely amazing. Now, these other 2 are only going to apply once we actually have this client's domain set up inside of GoHighLevel, which is a topic for another day. But the other thing that I noticed is on this landing page here, even though we filled out the form on the offer page, it didn't forward us to the booking page, which it should have. And we should be able to book on the calendar. And then once we book on the calendar, it should forward us to the thank you page. So let's see what went wrong there. I'm just going to hit edit. And again, this button links to the pop-up. So once we click on the pop-up here, we should be looking at this. So the redirect action is saying we're going to use the action from the form builder. So I could either go back to the form builder and, configure it there, or I could just say go to next step, which is what I want to do in this case. So I'm going to hit save, and I would hit publish if I had a domain, but I don't have a domain. So now let's go to the next page, which will be the booking page. And you can see we've got this calendar in here, and the calendar name is the schedule an appointment calendar, very aptly named. And this one is set up correctly. Looks like the redirect action says it go to next step. So now we're ready to build version 2 of these automations. And I hope you're following along and building this here. The reason we need to change a couple of things is timing, and for 2 reasons. The first one is when I click on this button and I fill out this information, I'm actually now going to be redirected to this page where I see the opportunity to book my time, right? And I don't really want the client getting a text after they submitted the information, but before they've booked their time. I just want them to book their time. And then if they don't book their time, get a different text. But if they do book a time, obviously get the text that's like, hey, thanks for booking your time. We'll see you soon. And the other thing about our workflow is that it will fire right now at any time of day. So if I come in here to settings, you'll see we're just going to fire in the account time zone any specific time. So let's say it's 2 a.m. I'm up with my newborn and I see something for landscaping. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I submit my information. I'm going to to get a text right away, which isn't the end of the world, but you know it's not someone actually texting you if it's 2 a.m. in your local time zone. And the business owner is going to get a call at that time, which is not ideal. So we need to switch a couple of things up to make this better for both the booking page and for the timing of when these are actually going to be set. So first, let's fix the problem around like the 2 a.m. thing. And while we're doing this, I actually like to differentiate based on weekends as well. So what we're going to do is add in what's called an if else step. And then we're going to hit date and time. And I'm just going to say the current day of the week is, and then we're going to say weekday here. And this is by default going to be called branch. What we want to say is yes. And the condition, we're going to rename it weekday ? And then instead of none on the none branch, we'll say no, because that makes a bit more sense. So here we're going to say weekday, yes, weekday, no. And you'll see this will split our workflow. And it did it the correct way. So on a weekday, we do want this to send. But again, we're kind of still running into the timing issue. And there's a couple of ways that we could do this, but what I'm going to do instead of adding another if else branch is I'll come here to settings. And I'm just going to say this can only fire between 8 and 5. And I'm going to turn on Saturday and Sunday because we changed that with the other thing that we did in there. But this should keep us fairly safe. Maybe go to like 7 p.m. depending on how late the client wants to be answering messages. So now that we hit save, we have a little bit of a stipulation to our trigger. If somebody submits this form and it's any day of the week, but between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m., then fire this. And the logic here, by the way, isn't just get rid of this. It's going to wait until the next window to execute the action. Let's say someone opts in at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday. They're going to get texted at 8 a.m. on Wednesday. This text that says, hey, I saw you requested a free quote for landscaping services. Can you confirm what you're looking to? Now, if it's a weekend, typically what I like to say, just so people know that we got their text and we'll reach out to them. This is what I like to send, something like this. You've reached location name out of our normal business hours. John, we'll get back to you in the next business day with some scheduling options. In the meantime, which days work best for your free quote? Thanks. I'll go ahead and hit save there. And now we have a pretty nice workflow that's going to fire on a weekday and send this. And on a weekend, it's just going to say, hey, we're busy, but can you answer some questions here? So the next thing we need to fix is the calendar. So when somebody books on the calendar, we don't actually want them to get these messages because it could be a little bit confusing. We just want to confirm, hey, we're going to reach out and confirm this time, or you're confirmed for this time. However, before we do that, I just want to point out that on our opportunities dashboard pipeline here, we have this hot lead one before we have a new booking. What is that for? Really quick, what we can add in on this workflow is a quick automation that allows us to mark someone as a hot lead if they respond to this text, let's say. So what I'm going to do is a wait step here. And instead of waiting a time, we're going to wait for contact to reply. So we just hit this SMS here, which is great. And then we can also say if they pick up the phone, and then we'll put a timeout on this of like, let's call it 30 minutes. So we're going to wait 30 minutes for reply, and then we'll do if else again. So hit this if else, we'll rename it replied. We'll say on the yes column, then we'll select the contact reply is true. And on the none branch, we'll say no. So hit save. So now if they've replied within 30 minutes, then we're going to do this where we'll add them to the opportunities dashboard in the hot lead stage because this person is hot. They've picked up the phone or they've responded, right? We can leave everything else blank. It'll just inherit it from this previously, so we don't have to update that. And then on the no side, what we could do is just send a little bit of a reminder text and just add, for example, like contact first name ? So it'd say like John, just to make sure that they got that text. We send that 30 minutes later. That's looking pretty robust, which is great. Now let's do the calendar part. We're going to use that wait step again. So once we create or update the opportunity, we're going to wait 5 minutes. And the reason for the 5-minute wait is that's about how long it's going to take them to book on the calendar. Is it possible that they take longer? Yes. But if they're going to book, they're probably going to do it within 5 minutes. So what we need to do is go in here and add, you guessed it, yet another if else condition step here. Now the trick on this condition step is that we're actually going to need something else before this can fire correctly. So put a pin in this. We're going to come right back to it and I'll show you what we're doing here right now. We're going to go in and create another workflow, start from scratch. We're going to call this the appointment booked workflow. So customer booked the appointment. That's going to be our trigger here. And we're going to say in calendar, schedule an appointment. That's where we want it to happen. And the first thing I want to do here is just add a tag to them. And that tag is going to be appointment booked. Add the new tag. Perfect. We'll come back and add more of this later, but this is the reason why we need to create that first is we need to come back to this post opt-in workflow, add our if else step, and then we're going to say booked on calendar ? and we'll say yes. And we're going to select tag, and then we're going to say includes appointment booked, and we'll save that action. So now you can see we have booked on calendar, and if they did book on calendar, they're going to get all of this stuff, which is what we don't want. We want it to be if they didn't book. So what's really cool is I can just take this and I can hit move all actions from here and just move it right there. So now if they did book on the calendar, the workflow is over. They won't get anything else. That's not exactly what we want, but I'll show you in a minute how we fix that. And if they don't book on the calendar, then we see, is it a weekday? We ask if they've replied. We add them as a hot lead, etc. And just like that, we've built a pretty robust workflow that can do quite a bit for us. So let's go back. And what we're going to do now is add in appointment reminders. So once they've booked their appointment, we'll say, thanks for booking your appointment with location name. We're excited to meet for your quote. Don't say free in a text message because it can flag it as spam and then I can go in here. And what's really cool is this ties it into the individual contact. I go to appointment and I just say start date time. So this is going to put in the date and the time and we're good to go. Please reply Y to confirm. Now I could create a situation where if they don't reply Y, I kind of prod them further, say, hey, we only accept confirmed appointments. We need you to confirm, or we could send some more information, maybe paperwork they have to fill out beforehand. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to add a wait step and I'm going to do event appointment time and we're going to do 1 day before. And you can read on kind of what you should do here in individual cases. If for some reason it was 5 p.m., say, and let's say they booked for 8 a.m. the next day, then it would just skip this one altogether, which is what I like. So I'm going to wait and say 1 hour before, what we're calling this one. And then I will send another SMS. And this one will say, reminder of your appointment with location name today in 24 hours. We're excited to meet you. And then hit save action. And then if I wanted to do that, I could repeat the same process, but set it up for, let's say, an hour before. Pretty nifty how that all fits together, huh? And while there's so much more you can do with workflows, please watch my other videos on them. This is the very first like rudimentary thing you need to set up. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the kind of evolution of this workflow that we've just built would be integrating what's called conversational AI into it, meaning that instead of the individual steps having very specific texts that are being sent, those texts would still be sent, but we can then integrate AI to respond almost immediately to every single lead that comes through instead of having to manage that as a manual process. Now, depending on who you talk to, the conversational AI and high level just isn't quite there yet. And so most people are using a third-party software. What seems to be emerging as number one is CloseBot. Underneath that would be ZappyChat. Then we have 3 more that I haven't had the chance to like properly vet yet. And those are Capri AI, Appointwise, and Consolidata, which does a lot more than just the AI bots, but they do plug in AI bots directly from ChatGPT. You're interested in learning more about the AI side of high level and what you can use there, go ahead and check out this video and subscribe because I'm going to be releasing videos on how to use the native high level AI and why you might want to use one of these third-party tools. However, for the purposes of today's video, we're just going to continue to cover the most basic features because I want to get you guys up to speed as fast as possible. And the biggest main feature that you need to understand is the conversations dashboard. We've covered it a little bit, but there's so much more that I want to point out that you can use here. So basically at the top here, we have unread, we have recents, starred, and all. So obviously very self-explanatory columns. What I usually end up using, I don't use recents and starred too much, but I do use all. And once I switch to all, I can use this search feature, or I can use these filters to filter by which way the direction that the message came in, whether it was inbound or outbound, the last message type, manual or automated, and then the last message channel, which includes all of these here that we've mentioned earlier. In addition to that, I can archive, I can star, I can mark as read, or I can just delete certain messages or filter on the individual contact. Now that will get you started, but there actually is so much more to the conversations dashboard. So on this right-hand side, you can see for this client, I have their email, I have their phone here, and I can assign it to anybody on my team. That can also be assigned via a workflow if that's something you like to do. I can check any tags that they have. I can check any active automations, and I can set DND for any of these channels. One that's new is DND incoming. So if you're getting spam calls or something from a certain number, you can just mark them as DND and you won't get any budget wasted on those spam calls. And then you can see here, I've got SMS that I can send. I've got WhatsApp I can send. I got email. And if I had this person's Instagram, that would also show up, or their Facebook, it would also show up, and I can toggle between all of those. I can write the subject and the message of the email. WhatsApp has some specific things where you have to use a template to initiate a chat if it's been over 24 hours, or I can type an SMS. Now, if I'm using any of these, you can also see that I've got all of these other options here on the bottom. The most helpful ones are going to be requesting a payment. So you can type in, let's say, appointment reservation reservation fee. Let's say it's going to be $50 and we'll say that it's due on this date. There's an option to make it test or live, and then I can hit preview here and you'll see this is what the invoice looks like. Pretty sweet. So once I'm there, I can copy the link and mark it as sent inside Stripe. Then I can paste it and send it to this individual contact. The other really helpful thing here is what's called these templates or snippets. So if I go to templates or snippets, you can see I've got tons of pre-saved things that I can send via text or via email, and my team can come in here very easily and just hit insert template, and depending which channel it is, those ones will pull up. So I'll go ahead and hit this node bonuses one. I hit use template and boom, there it is. It's all populated very easily. I can tweak things, and as you can see, I can use these merge fields here where it's actually going to default to their first name that's saved in their contact. Now this is the conversations view, but if we want to go into the individual contact view, this is where things also get even more granular. So I'll hit this here. So here we have contact fields, and then since I'm using CloseBot, I have a specific section for that. I have general info, additional info, booking bot info. That's for the high level one. And then I have this other custom one that I've made. Inside of general info, you'll have all this basic stuff. Inside of additional info, this basic stuff, and all of this, additional stuff. Some of those are custom. And when you create a form, you decide where the information goes in here, and you can create your own categories. Then again, you can see tags, which automations they've been in, whether they're active or past, and where they're at inside of opportunities, or if they need to be added to opportunities, as well as all of the D&D stuff. They can be added in here. And then once you add them, you'll see the email pop up directly, inviting them into that. So that's everything just on this left-hand side. Another really cool thing is that I can hit view audit logs here, and this is going to show me every action that this guy has taken and like what he's triggering inside of the CRM. So you can see he filled out a form, he was added to a workflow, and did a few other things here. But I honestly don't prefer that view. What I like to look at instead is this one over here, where I can see exactly what happened to him. So you can see he was directed to this page, which if I click on it, it'll pop up. It's just, hey, join my newsletter. Once he joins, I see that this form was submitted, the contact was created, and he was redirected to the upsell. And let me pull up an example of someone else that has probably a more complicated one, so you can see how granular this actually gets. So this guy, you can see he visited a couple pages browsing, didn't do anything on either of those pages, and then ended up opting in for my free course, and I created his contact based on that. You can even see in the case of this person, the first time they contacted me was almost a year ago. September 9th, 2019 was the first time they visited a page. They visited a bunch of times before they finally decided to opt in. Once they opt in, then they visited a few other pages. You can see they were really close to buying the course that I had available at that time. They didn't, but then they recently joined my newsletter just a few days ago, and it might be a good time to reach out to them. So obviously they're kind of in buying mode again, and you can see my team's been having a conversation with them as recently as today. Now, in addition to that, if you want to add tasks like we saw in the opportunities dashboard, you want to leave notes, you want to check the appointments this person has, any documents connected to them or payments connected to them, you can look at all of them here. And HighLevel's big priority for the next couple of years is making the CRM more and more sophisticated so that it can compete with any other CRM, which is very cool. So now the next big thing that I need to show you is how it works to add other users to each sub account. We go to settings and then my staff, you can see everybody that's in my sub account here. So if I were to add a new employee, this is what comes up. So I have the user info, I can add first name, last name, email, phone, signature, select their calendar, and also set their password. And then we get to roles and permissions, and this is where things get crazy. So think about the use case of you adding someone like the front desk person at a dental office, for example, a use case near and dear to my heart. That's the niche that my agency was in. I don't want them to have access to everything because they're going to get confused, etc. And so what I can do is turn off certain features that they don't need. For example, I don't need them to have content AI, so I'm going to turn that off. On the automation side, I don't want them to be able to mess with the workflows or anything in automation, so I'm going to turn that off. Blogs, they don't need access to. Calendars, they do. Certificates, communities, they don't need access to. Conversations, this is where I want them to be spending their time, so I'm going to leave that there. On the dashboard, let's say I'm not running Google ads for them, I'll just turn that off. Let's say I don't need agent reporting, I'll turn that off. And it's super helpful to be able to select small things in here that each individual user's experience will be customized based on that. And keep in mind, if you are not adding the individual users, your users are, which is the ideal scenario, then as long as they're an admin on the individual sub account, account, they're going to be completely fine to add and remove permissions like this for each individual user that they add. That is a bit advanced for most people that are going to be using the software as an end user. So I would recommend that you just cut off these options using SaaS mode. But if for some reason you need to add more functionality to one person instead of the entire team, that is an option, which is very cool. And then we can also set their call and voicemail settings for the individual user, their availability on a calendar, and the calendar configuration, which can all be changed inside of the My Profile section here for the individual person. And as more and more people get added as users into your agency, they will all show up inside of the agency view here under team. And if you need to add people who are part of your agency, you can make them an agency user here as you see, or you can make them just an account user. And if they need to be added to multiple accounts, I could come in here to this person, for example, and they're added just to this Castle Avenue account right now. But if I wanted to add them to 1237 Harding Place, I could as well. And then they'll get all of the notifications for both of those, and they'll be able to toggle between them up here in the left-hand menu. So the next most crucial thing you need to understand and implement correctly is getting your phone numbers right and getting your email services right. I briefly went over phone numbers, and as I mentioned, there's some bureaucratic red tape that you have to go through now to actually get that phone number approved. Good news is those are getting approved within like 2 days if you follow the system in this video, which I'm putting up on the screen now. But just to give you a little teaser, I'll show you in like 30 seconds what you have to do for that so you understand the difficulty. Come to settings, and then I go to business profile here. And in this business profile, I just have to fill out my street address, my legal business name. I have to put in my EIN, so you'll need that from your clients if they want to send text messages. And then once this is filled out completely, you go to phone numbers. And once you buy the phone number, you'll click on Trust Center, and this is what this setup system looks like. So now the next really important thing to understand is email services. So if I hit this button, dedicated domain and IP, you can see that I have this subdomain set up to send email from this individual sub account. So i.itskeaton.com. Now the I doesn't really mean anything. I just put it there because it sort of blends in, because the first letter of my domain is I. And you can do the exact same thing for your clients, and it's actually super simple to set up. Now, one note here is that, again, we have the agency umbrella and the sub account umbrella. And on the agency side, the setup is the exact same thing as the sub account, but those emails are just for things like password resets or, hey, someone new got added to your account or whatever. That's going to be set up in the agency settings under email services. But again, it's the exact same setup I'm about to show you. It's just a little bit more complicated on the sub account side. So I'm going to show you here. So basically all I would have to do to add in a domain here is I hit add domain. And let's say I'm adding this subdomain for the very first time to be able to send emails from this sub account. First of all, if I don't add anything here, it's going to come from this email that you see on the screen. It's going to say via.mgmsgndr or whatever it says.com, which is message sender without any vowels. That's the default high level domain. You do not want to use this. You don't want that happening. So you need to come in here and set something up for each of your clients. Now I have a video explaining more of this in depth, but most of the time what you're going to do is you're going to either come in here and type in something like, let's say I'm a client of mine and I'm Joe's Crab Shack. I'm going to do Joe's Crab Shack .streamline.io. Okay. So it's a little bit counterintuitive, but I'm adding my client's name as a subdomain of my domain. That means they can send email and the via will say Joe's Crab Shack in it. We'll have this, which will increase the reputability of that. The other option we would have, which is even better, would be to get access to my client's domain settings and instead make this something like j.joescrabshack.com. And this means that everything they send through the sub account is just going to come from this subdomain, which looks super reputable and looks exactly like their domain. So they'll be good to go. So for me in this case, just do mail.itskeaton.com. I will hit add and verify, and they have made this process so slick recently. So I just hit that and it's going to say setting up your domain. It's going to find where my domain is hosted, and then it's going to ask me to log in, and it's going to automatically add the domain to this sub account. So I just hit authorize. I log into Cloudflare, and then it's going to say, do you authorize all these DNS records from Lead Connector? If you haven't done this before and you're confused out of your mind, don't worry, just hit authorize. It's going to say authorizing, and then all those same things are going to pop up inside of here. At first they'll appear as not verified, but then I just hit verify domain. This one can take a little bit longer, so then I just go back here, and usually within an hour at the most, this will look just like this one where the SSL is issued, and I'll be able to send emails from this account, which is pretty amazing. Now you might be wondering, what is this dedicated IP thing here at the bottom? This is only if you're sending over 100,000 emails a month, which most of your clients will not be doing. If you are doing this, then I recommend reaching out to an email consultant who can help set this up for you. My friend Matt Ratliff is very good at this, and I will leave the link to book with him below if that's something you have a question on. Really quick, just to wrap up this conversation about email services, I'll take you back here and show you again on the location settings. We can decide whether or not we have email verification turned on, who the provider is, and what the domain is. So you can see this one, for example, Concrete Lifting Inc. is set up at concretemail.streamline.io. I don't have email verification turned on. I probably should. If it was a real account, I would, but it's a dummy account, and I can just come in here and see that, okay, this is on the lead connector email. If I wanted to switch it to Mailgun manually, I could. Most people don't want to do that. You may want to do this if you're very, very into email and you need to send a lot. Mailgun would be a good option for you, but you can see all of the settings for each one individually here. And then you can switch which domain they're actually connected to if you want to connect it to one of the agency level domains under the agency umbrella. Alrighty, so we've gone through a lot, but there's still so much more in the CRM. So I'm going to speed run through some of the, I don't want to say less important features, but features that not everyone is going to be using so that you can see what's available and then dive into those individual features later on if that's something that you'd like to do. So first of all, once you have your calendar integrated, your user's calendar will show up here, and you can actually toggle between whose calendar is showing up or if all of them are showing up. You can select individual calendars, like this one is who's coming on my podcast in the next couple of days, and then also groups. You can toggle between day, month, and year, and you can use this appointments view, which is very useful for a lot of people who are booking a lot of appointments. You can see all of those appointments in one spot and decide whether they're confirmed, showed, canceled, or invalid, etc. While we're talking about calendars, I'll come in here and show you that they do have calendar groups. They have service menus, they have rooms and equipments, which are all new abilities to use the calendar with. And when you create a calendar, you have all of these options here. So service calendar, simple calendar, round robin calendar, class booking, and collective booking. I have a video explaining this whole thing in depth, so I will link to that here. But basically, if you have a calendar use case, it's probably going to be covered here. I will say that the calendars are probably one of the most difficult things to set up in HighLevel because they give you so many options. This isn't like Calendly where you have 3 clicks and you're set up, and they're working on simplifying setting up calendars because honestly it is pretty complicated, but you have so many options in terms of the availability, forms and payments, notifications, additional options, and customizations of how the widget shows up, etc. Now moving on, next up is payments. We can send invoices and save templates and recurring templates, and a fairly new feature here as well is documents and contracts, and you can send real documents and contracts. For example, I just rented out a rental property and I sent the contract through HighLevel here, so you can see all of the information. And you can see that the tenant has left their initials on every page, and then at the end they have also signed, which is very cool. So go ahead and cancel your document software subscription when you sign up for the $97 a month HighLevel subscription. So next up is orders, where you can see all the recent orders on whatever it is you're selling. And we have abandoned checkouts where you can see where people have started to check out on that 2-step order form I showed you before, but haven't actually checked out. And if you go to settings here and notifications, you can see this abandoned cart notifications here, send to the customer if they leave checkout before they buy the items in their cart. And you can set it to be whatever email you want it to be. These are email templates here, and how many hours you want it to send afterwards. You can also do this via workflows to customize it a lot more, but this is kind of the easier setup method. Next up, we have subscriptions. These have to be created via order forms inside of HighLevel to save. These aren't 100% accurate for me. I access them through Stripe. Then we have payment links. Inside of payment links, much like I was showing you in the conversations dashboard, you can just create these and then save them as links that you want to send often, which is very cool. Next up, transactions, basically the same as the orders page, a couple of differences here. Then we can see products, every single product I have here. And then next up, we have collections, and this would be, I believe, for e-commerce, where you can add, like, let's say you have a bunch of shirts, you could create a shirts collection, add an image, and then when you're inside of the funnel builder, you could add particular products to that. Coupons and discount codes you can add in here, decide what it is, limit the total number of times it can be redeemed, limit to specific products or offers, when it starts, when it ends, automatically do all of that so you don't have to manually update your checkout, which was the case for a long time. Very cool. When it comes to receipts, we can automatically send every single receipt to people who check out with us, which is very important, especially if you're dealing with European customers who need a receipt for everything. Next up, we have taxes. If you want to add taxes to invoices, you can do that here. And then shipping and delivery, again, if you're doing e-commerce, you can decide which zone you're sending to and how much you want to charge for that particular zone. Very cool, and a simple way to solve that problem instead of having to integrate with a third-party e-commerce tool. Then in integrations, we can see everything available here: Stripe, PayPal, Authorize.net, NMI, Pay Tabs, Razor Pay, and any other manual payment methods here. I have a podcast I did with a payments expert you should definitely check out if you have questions about this, and we'll be releasing another video specifically on it because this is its whole other topic, but this is where you would manage those integrations. Next up, we have the marketing tab, and this is where the social planner lives. Now, the awesome thing about the social planner is that you can connect a ton of different accounts here, and you can post obviously to each one of those. However, there are a few limitations here that make it unusable for some use cases. So let's say I were to go in and schedule something for today, and I want to do it on Instagram. I just hit Instagram here, and then if I go to story, you'll see that Instagram story will not support the caption for publishing posts directly. Instagram story is not supported in creator account. So this isn't going to work for me because I have a creator account, and I'm not going to be able to put a caption in. Like, I'm going to have to do the stories directly. As far as reels go, I'm not going to be able to add platform-based music, but for just like regular text-based posts or carousels or things like that, this will totally work. You can just add the images, add the text, post it. Another cool thing here is I can just hit new post and I can look at a bunch of templates. As I mentioned before, like there's tons and tons in here. Not sure how useful they are depending on your niche, etc., but it will give you some inspo, and obviously you can create your own templates for your clients and roll them out to them. Now, also in the marketing tab, we have email templates. So I have tons and tons of templates in here. For example, like my welcome email for my newsletter is in here, and this is just basic text. Those are the type of emails I send, but you have tons of options inside of the builder as to what you can build. And again, inside of templates, if I hit new and I hit email marketing templates, you can see there's tons of stuff in here that is very well designed. Once you create the template and you want to use it in a campaign, you can see your statistics here. This isn't showing any data, but the conversion summary is so cool. How much revenue, what's your average order value from your emails? This level of data is pretty freaking amazing, and it can help you see how much money you're making off of each email. Now, as if that wasn't enough, when you're creating the email, let's say I start from this blank one and I use the design editor here. Once I'm ready to send this, I can actually do some A/B testing on the subject, on the email content, how long I want to test it, up to 6 variations, the winning criteria of unique open rate or unique click rate, etc. Very, very cool email marketing tools here. And then the fact that it's integrated with absolutely everything that you already have inside of HighLevel is pretty freaking amazing. Templates and snippets we covered before. Trigger links. This means you can create a link that then triggers a workflow, which if you think about that, the possibilities are endless. Somebody clicks on a certain button, and as long as you have their info saved inside of HighLevel somewhere, they've opted in somewhere else, you can send them an email based on what they clicked on, even if they clicked on something in an email. Or you can move opportunities around based on what somebody clicks on, or any number of 100 other things that you can come up with. It really is choose your own adventure with trigger links. And then lastly, in here, we have the affiliate manager, and this is where you can create your own products and create affiliate links and programs for people to promote their products on your behalf and manage payouts. You can pause and take a look at some of these settings and customizations that you can add, which is really cool as far as naming, the payout terms, the cookie life, etc. And I'll show you in just a minute that this affiliate manager actually shows up inside of the community feature inside of HighLevel, which is pretty insane. Next up, we have sites, which I've shown you the funnel builder briefly. I have another video on that you can check out here to learn how to use it more in depth, and websites, which is basically just a bunch of funnels together, but the websites can look pretty cool. I'll pull up my website here. This is built on HighLevel, and as you can see, we've got some good animation. Everything looks pretty clean. Actually really enjoying the website builder on HighLevel. New to this section is analytics, which is very cool because you can see everything in one spot, or you can select a specific one and see how many page views you've had in the last, number of days. Previously and currently, you're able to see that on the individual funnel level. For example, I can click on this individual one and go to stats, and I can see how many people have seen the page, how many have opted in during any given time period here, and it does all the math for me there, which is beautiful. Next up, we have blogs, which is pretty amazing. We can see how many visitors, what these blog posts are, build them, and you can see what the blog looks like on my website here, which is pretty cool. Following this is WordPress, and this isn't actually WordPress, it's WordPress hosting. A lot of people have had a really cool experience with this. They're able to resell the hosting to their clients if they want to keep their website on WordPress, and you just buy it for $15 per month per client, and then you can resell that for whatever you want to the client. Next up, we have the client portal, which I will show you in just a minute because it actually relates more to memberships, which is next. Forms, I've showed you the builder, but let's look at the analyze tab. Very cool. We can see how many have opted into how many on which day, and we can actually sort by specific forms and those submissions if we want to as well. When it comes to surveys, these are like forms, but they look a little bit different. So you can build them in individual cards here, and then the preview looks kind of like this, which is actually pretty smooth. It replaces something like Typeform, for example. And they have the same thing with analytics and submissions as well. Chat widget we've already covered, and URL redirects is pretty freaking cool because we can set up redirects for anything. If for some reason one funnel or website page is no longer in action, we can just redirect that page to something else, which becomes very useful. All right, now when it comes to courses and communities, these are very intertwined and they're all connected by what I mentioned earlier, which is this client portal. So if I go into the client portal, this is what it's referring to. For me, my URL is community.agencydominance.home, and I've got a little bit of information here, but you can see the main three things here are to join a group, take a course, or look at my affiliate earnings. And all of this is managed inside of the settings here. So I can toggle off or on courses or communities. Let's say I only want courses, I don't want communities, I can turn that off. Let's say I don't want affiliates, I can turn that off. And then I can also select where people default to. If they sign into community.agencydominance.com, I want them defaulting to the communities page. And so that's what I've set up. I can set up my own branding. I can also set up my own domain, which you can do as well. And now you can see here, I have close to 6,000 users. These are all the people in all the courses that I've ever created. Not all of them are inside my communities, just inside of the courses. Now, if I go back here and I hit join a group, it takes me to the groups that I'm already a part of, which you can see here. And inside of those groups, I have home, and then I have individual channels. I just like to have one channel, which is the general channel. And then I can look and access the course in here. I can also see the members inside of my community, and I can see the leaderboard, how many people have commented for the last 30 days, all time, etc. And I can add rewards. I haven't done this, but what rewards are going to happen for what level of the leaderboard. So very much like school if you've added that. But hang on a minute. Let's say I go back to home and I hit take a course. Now I'm just going to be inside of this course library. We have all of my courses. I can access, let's say, my entire course here and scroll through individual one. Let's say I want to click on this one and watch this video. People can leave comments on the videos as well, which is super helpful. Then I can hit home and come back here again. Same thing, by the way, if I hit inside of my group learning and then I click on this course, it's going to pull me into the course area. However, if I go back, I'm back in here. On the affiliates earning side of things, obviously I'm not an affiliate for myself, but I'll pull up another affiliate one where you can see all of the data here. Okay, so this is a course I've been a part of, Course Creator Pro. And if I click here and hit affiliates, so this is the affiliate dashboard for another software I promote, which is Course Creator 360. If you're a course creator and you don't want to use HighLevel directly, this is a great option for you. But basically you can see all of the leads and customers I've generated. And then I can come in here and actually see those leads, how many customers, how many have canceled, how much is paid, how much is owed to me, and how much potential revenue I've made. So that's what that dashboard looks like when you're an affiliate. When it comes to actual settings in courses and communities, I have videos on that, so I won't dive into it here. It's pretty straightforward. If you've used Kajabi, the course builder is almost exactly the same here. So I can just come in here, add a lesson, for example, title that. Once I've created it, I'll come in here and I can add the video, add a thumbnail, files, and a description of the video. They've also recently updated the UI of the builder and it looks amazing. All right, next up we have media storage. This is basically like Google Drive inside of HighLevel. And as far as I know, it's unlimited and you can continue to deploy the same pictures across multiple parts of the platform or videos if that's what you need to do. Next up, we have the reputation management tab. For me as an online coach, this doesn't make as much sense because I'm not sending review requests for like a Google My Business or a Facebook page, but a lot of people have a lot of success with this. You can see the reviews that have been left, and then you can actually hit to reply via AI, which is very cool. It does cost a little bit extra, but that's an awesome feature. You can see and customize widgets that you want to put on websites. These don't just have to be high-level websites. You can do them wherever. And then you can use this Yext upsell feature to take your local business clients and list them all over the internet for a very, very low fee. You get their platinum plan for, I think it's like 90% off as a high-level user, which is very cool. If you hit the gear icon here, you can see reputation management settings and toy around with them here. Honestly, even if I was working with local businesses, I probably wouldn't use this native reputation management feature. I prefer to do it through workflows because it's a little bit more customizable. But with that said, they are improving this all the time. Okay, following that, we have the reporting tab where we can see a Google Ads report. I'm not running Google Ads right now, but I'll show you last year kind of what this looks like, how much I was running. Then we have a Facebook ads report, similar, an attribution report. This is where things get really cool. We can see first and last attribution. So when someone visits a page, you can see who the referrer was for that and make real decisions based on what's actually happening here when it comes to revenue, when it comes to lead, when it comes to opportunities. Depending on who you are, this can be insanely useful. Next up, we have call reports. I don't really do calling from this account, so there's nothing in here, but if your team or your client's team were to be calling from here, all of the information would be in here, like how many of them were incoming, outgoing, how many deals were won from them, and call by status, etc. The agent report, keep in mind, this is only available on the $497 plan. I can switch between all of the agents inside of my account, and I can fetch the data based on them. How many conversions have they had? How many messages have they sent? Calls, their efficiency, etc. Can all be pulled up in here. And we can have a leaderboard, which is pretty amazing. And then appointment reporting, again, very, very helpful. I pretty much only use this to book podcasts right now because I'm not taking any one-on-one calls. But if someone were to book a one-on-one call, or you were taking sales calls or things like that, this is where this gets insanely useful. Okay, next up we have the app marketplace, which I already covered. But again, if you want this available to your clients, this is where they'll be able to come in here and say, okay, I want to use Razorpay, for example, hit install, and many times add actions to the workflow builder, which is pretty insane. So you can trigger things to other apps. Basically, the mobile app, this is just a place for them to encourage people to download the mobile app. And then lastly, I forgot to mention this, but the Launchpad, when somebody signs up for your SaaS, they're going to have this Launchpad so they can see what the most important things are that they need to set up right away so that they're hooked on the software and they want to use it long term. All right, so that is it for this whole front part of the CRM. But as we know, when we hit settings, there is tons more in here. And some of this is settings for what we've already seen, and some of it is other stuff. We've covered most of business profile. One thing I didn't point out earlier is this general tab. Make sure to read through everything and make sure that if you don't want to reply, stop, done, subscribe, or a sign off from your legal business name every single time you send a text, that you toggle these off. Obviously, stay compliant, send them the first time, but it gets very redundant and annoying when these are on all the time. So I like to turn them off. And there's a couple other useful things in here, like disabling the contact time zone, if that's something that's going to throw off your team if you have a call center. Inside of company billing, you're able to see the total balance of credits that you have, how much you want to auto recharge with for this particular account. And all of these usually $10 recharges on the wallet balance. This is for SMS, email, and AI costs. Inside the My Staff section, this looks just like the agency view, but it's only for the people inside of this sub account. Opportunities and pipelines, there's a couple of unique settings that you can change here. Next up is conversation AI. And perhaps I should have brought this up during the notable things and not just the run through of the remaining features here. However, as I mentioned, most people aren't using the native conversational AI because it's just not quite there in terms of what people want it to be able to do. But basically what you can do here is sign up for a 2 cents per response plan, or you can upgrade to an unlimited plan for $49 a month per sub account to be able to cover all of those AI fees, which would be worth it if you're sending enough to, bill more than $49 a month. Basically, the way this works is you have 3 settings. You can have it completely off. You can have it be suggestive, meaning that it helps you within conversations dashboard, which is very helpful, and makes sure that nothing bad happens and actually gets sent, or you can send to autopilot where the AI is actually responding to everybody automatically. And then you can decide which channels this replies to. So if there's one where it's pretty straightforward, all the stuff that comes through there has a very basic way of getting responded to, then this would be an awesome option for that. Now, when it comes to actually training the bot, you can trial it here, but you need to train it first inside of bot training and configuring intents. So you can just have general question and answer, or you can have appointment booking. And when it comes to appointment booking, you can tell it not to book the appointment, to only send the booking link, or you can have it try to actually book the appointment. Inside of bot training here, you can enter URLs or other links. Like for me, these are all the things that I have uploaded so that we'll be trained on that information. And then you can add a bunch of Q&A. These are a bunch of Q&A that I have put in here attempting to get this to work. It hasn't quite worked the way that I wanted to, but if, again, you have a very straightforward use case, this could be perfect for you. Once you do the training, you configure the intents, and you can come to the bot trial and test how it's working, turn it on for a few days, see if anything bad happens. If it does, shut it off, try again, and then move to a third-party tool if that's something that doesn't seem to be working for you. Following this up, we have WhatsApp. WhatsApp is awesome. The only thing that isn't great about it is that if you don't respond within 24 hours, you have to reinitiate the conversation with what's called a template. So if I click on templates here, you can see I've created these 2 templates that are, hi there, this is Keaton Walker from Agency Dominance. Would be great to chat here. You can obviously configure any response that you want to inside of the workflow builder, and you can send whatever you want. But if you're going to initiate a conversation, it has to be through one of these templates, and it counts as a new conversation being initiated if you don't respond within 24 hours. But getting this set up is a breeze. Enabling WhatsApp on individual sub accounts is an extra fee, but you can mark that up. So it's $10 from HighLevel, and then you can decide how much you want to resell it for and what that profit will look like. And then you'll see that the client gets this upsell inside of here. Now, that's not all the cost. It actually does cost money to send those templated messages, and it depends on the country. I'll put up the graph here, and the type of message as to how much it will cost. But if the customer initiates the message, all of your messages to them within the next 72 hours are free with that subscription. Next Next up, we have custom fields. I already showed you custom values earlier when we were working with that snapshot. Custom fields are very similar, except that they're just created every single time you create a new line or a new question inside of a form that somebody needs to answer, or maybe those records are coming along as you're importing contacts from other softwares, etc. But all of that will live here, and you can actually put them inside of folders. You can see deleted fields, etc. if that's something that you'd like to organize. And again, those show up inside of the individual contact records as well. Next up, we have lead scoring. This is very cool. It just means that you can add a certain number of points that will show up in the conversations dashboard and in the contact, showing how many points that contact has. And then you could send emails, let's say, to only the people with a certain number of points, or execute other actions based on that inside of the workflow builder. When it comes to adding rules, it's pretty straightforward. You just put this here. You say, let's, for example, do trigger links, which I showed you earlier, very powerful. They've clicked a specific trigger link, which is watching like this Loom walkthrough of your course. Then you come in and you add, let's say, 2 points to that. It should be noted that you can also subtract a number of points based on them unsubscribing or doing some other sort of negative action. But once you hit save, these will start to update the lead scores of everyone inside of the CRM, which is pretty freaking awesome. Coming up on the home stretch here, you can have unlimited domains with HighLevel, and it's really easy to integrate them. You just hit add, you type it in, and that same process we saw that happened with the email service will happen with your domains or subdomains, and then you can plug them into the funnels and websites that you're using. URL redirects we saw earlier. That brings us to integrations, and boy, oh boy, are there a lot of integrations here. You can integrate your Google Calendar or your LSA Google Ads account here, Google Business Profile, Facebook and Instagram, QuickBooks, Clio, Stripe, Shopify, TikTok lead ads, LinkedIn lead ads, Slack, and Printful. Now, of course, there's a ton of other integrations through the marketplace. These are the native ones built inside of HighLevel that you don't need any extras to be able to do. And these work pretty well. Every once in a while, you have to go through and kind of reintegrate them, but I haven't had a lot of issues with them in the past. Conversation providers here. This is just for you if you're integrating like SMS app of your own inside of HighLevel and you want to test it out. It will show up here. 99% of people won't have anything in here. Then we have tags. This is similar to the custom fields thing where all of the tags that you ever have will show up. Then we have labs. This is where you can turn on the latest features if they're not on already. So would definitely recommend coming into labs and checking that about once a week. Next, we have audit logs. This place is insane. I showed you on the agency level, but on the sub account level as well, we can see who the person was, what they did, what the action was, whether there was an integration or a workflow or an automation that fired something, all of them. Everything that happens will be recorded in here. And lastly, we have companies. This is something you can turn on so that there can be multiple contacts inside of one company. So basically the company is the shell, and then a bunch of different contacts live in there if you deal with multiple people from the same company, for example. I don't personally have this on, but it's something that some people really, really want inside of their CRM. So important to turn that on. Guys, thank you so much for sitting through this video. Hopefully it taught you a lot. If it did, I really appreciate you signing up with my affiliate link. There's tons and tons of bonuses that come along with that. I'll pop them up on the screen now. The link to sign up is below. Would love to see you in there and meet you on the monthly calls that we have. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.